Let's invoke the supramental light. Om Tatsavidulbharam Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yannaha Satyena Dhipahi. Om Tatsavidulbharam Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yannaha Satyena Dhipahi. Om Tatsavidulbharam Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yannaha Satyena Dhipahi. Today, the 4th December, Synthesis of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo, Introduction, the Conditions of Synthesis, Chapter 1, Life and Yoga, Sentences 22. All methods grouped under the common name of yoga are special psychological processes found on a fixed truth of nature and developing out of normal functions, powers, and results which were always latent, but which her ordinary movement do not easily or do not often manifest. Sentence 23. But as in physical knowledge, the multiplication of scientific process has its disadvantages, as that tends, for instance, to develop a victorious artificiality which overwhelms our natural human life under a load of machinery, and to purchase certain forms of freedom and mastery at the price of an increased servitude. So the preoccupation with yogic processes and their exceptional results may have its disadvantage and losses. The yogin tend to draw away from the common existence and lose his hold upon it. He tend to purchase wealth of spirit by an impoverishment of his human activities, the inner freedom by an outer death. Now let's see what Sri Aurobindo teach us on these paragraphs. So this is very important from my point of view. Right, the first sentences. So all forms of yoga, no matter how different, these are actually special inner psychological methods. So that is a very important part. Any yogic method is a kind of a specialized inner psychological method. They are based on some of the deep truth of human nature, and they develop from our ordinary capacity certain extraordinary powers and results. Okay, so when you start to practice any of the yogic method, your ordinary capacities become the extraordinary powers as a result. So these capacities were always hidden in us. These are not coming from any outside. These are within us. But in the form of life, we are rarely express them. So the way we live, right, the normal ordinary life, we don't express these latent powers. So when you start to practice the yogic methods, so these extraordinary capacities are coming out of any yogic method. No matter whatever this method, you will get some of the latent power awaken in you. So Sri Aurobindo revealed that yoga is not something unnatural or mystical in the sense of being outside life. It is simply nature accelerating her secret work within us. That's why we are getting the problem. Just as a seed holds the possibility of huge tree, the human nature holds within its great spiritual powers. So when the human started to practice the yoga is the conscious method by which we bring out these potential far faster and more perfectly than the ordinary life what we live in a common. So this is the meaning of the first sentence. So the second sentence that he said, but just as a modern science, through too many artificial processes, sometimes create the problem over mechanized life, increasing dependency and creating few forms of bondages. In the same way, too much of obsession with the yogic techniques may also have the drawbacks. So obviously, we are seeing this. The many people start the hatha yoga, so after that, they become the obsessed with the asana and try to do so many hundreds of asana. But there is no point. It is these are mechanized and creating some bondage with the practices. But what is the real purpose? So in the same way, the too much obsession with the yogic techniques will bring some drawbacks. So Sri Aurobindo warns again the excessive technique based rituals. Don't go many techniques or many technicalities. So where the sadhaka become trapped in the method rather than growing his consciousness. So the idea of the yogic practice to grow your consciousness, but when you start to too much technical techniques, or focus on too much of techniques, then you will be trapped into those methods. Just like a machine can enslave the human life, the yogic process can become a subtle bondage. The practitioner may begin chasing power, experiences, and the mechanical perfection instead of the true transformation. That's the point here. So the idea of the sadhana is for the true transformation, but the sadhakas will focus more into the power and so much of experience and mechanical perfections. So this will be trapping your progress. So this is called for a balance, humility, and sincerity in the practices. He insists in this sentence. The same way, the third paragraph, third sentences, Aurobindo point at the classical danger in traditional yoga, inner liberation at the cost of the outer life. So when you start to do sadhana, you lose your physical outer life. So that is the cost for your inner liberation. So yogi becomes so absorbed within that he neglects the normal life, action, society, creativity, relationships, and the world. So then his spiritual wealth comes at cost of the human outer life, sacrificing the outer life. But Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga is different, and he seek inner freedom along with a richer outer life, a harmonious transformation of both spirit and the nature. So that's the idea he is trying to provide through this synthesis of yoga. Okay, so this is the today's reading. Om Tat Saviturvaram Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yannah Satyena Dhipaye Om Tat Saviturvaram Rupam Jyoti Parasya Dhimahi Yannah Satyena Dhipaye அருளோடு செல்வம் ஞானம் ஆற்றலும் அன்பும் பண்பும் பொருள் நலம் பொறுமை பொருந்திடச் செய்வாயம் ஆயுளாரோக்கியம் வீரம் அசைந்திடா பக்தி அன்பும் தேயுரா செல்வம் கீர்த்தி தேவியே அருள்வாயம்மா ஓம் சாந்தி 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 தென்னாடேஸ்வனே போற்றி எந்நாட்டவர்க்கும் நிறைவா போற்றி இன்பமே சூழ்கம் எல்லோரும் வாழ்க. அனைவருக்கும் அன்னையினரும் பெருமண்டத்திலும் ஆசை.